Bill, friends tell me that 22-year-old woman was sweet and humble. Meanwhile, police entered her home of horror, finding blood in the bathroom, a meat cleaver, and her remains stuffed into suitcases.
It's your boy King G, and it's the news. Today, we get into the tragic story of Deja Johnson, who was found dismembered in her home at the hands of her ex-boyfriend, who has yet to be charged with the crime. Deja Johnson was a 22-year-old woman from Brooklyn, originally from Harlem, who moved to Brooklyn for a better life, who worked at Macy's, and who was actively in school with hopes of one day becoming a teacher. But on one day this past September, all that would change from what was found in her Linwood Park apartment. Deja had secretly been dealing with a monster. She was a client of Housing Plus, which is a nonprofit organization that provides stable housing and support to people who are vulnerable or facing domestic violence. For the last 2 years, Deja had faced domestic violence at the hands of her now 23-year-old ex-boyfriend. Those close to Deja state that they witnessed the abuse firsthand, as well as overhearing Deja's boyfriend make threats of offing her. Neighbors of Deja claimed to hear the couple fighting often in the apartment. The cops were called oftenly, but every time they arrived, Deja would always tell them everything was okay and would even go as far as helping them hide inside the apartment so that he was not spotted by the police. Eventually, she did decide to take a stand and actually got an active restraining order against her ex, but clearly this did not deter him, even being arrested in March for violating the order when he claimed he was just getting his things. This was a demon she couldn't seem to shake. Family and friends grew continuously worried, stating to Deja that they didn't want to see her end up on the news, and she reassured them that she was working on her exit plan. But even the family didn't know the full extent of what was going on in the home. Witnesses have stated the following incidents. She used to say he used to slam her head in the house. Like, why you got people in our business? He used to break stuff in the house, she would say. It's not your money. And he would say, I don't give a you're mine. So everything that's yours belongs to me. Another neighbor, who declined to share their name, said once they saw blood coming from Johnson's apartment. I just came home from work. I get upstairs and I see an entire blood trail. Lots and lots of blood just trailing from our apartment to the front door. Downstairs, they're arguing and fighting, the neighbor recalled. Other neighbors frequently heard the man make the same chilling threat over and over again. The only way you out is when your mother's gonna bury you. He always said it in the hallway. We always heard it.
This man, who did not want to give his name, lives on the same floor a few doors down.
You hear arguing, banging, loud stuff, regular stuff, but you can't, like I said, if you try to interrupt or something like that, you're just putting yourself in a problem you can't solve.
He said that the woman and her boyfriend would regularly fight, and there was often evidence that it got very physical most of the time.
Somebody gets hit very hard in the mouth, right? The blood trail will lead from the door to the elevator. They stood in the elevator, obviously, to the first floor, came back out to the front of the building. The blood trail stops there, and you see them both arguing in front of the building.
The boyfriend.
So as you can see from those witness accounts, this was a very toxic, abusive, and violent relationship. So now let's get into the events that ultimately led to this 22-year-old woman's demise. So Deja hadn't been seen for over a week, and by Sunday, neighbors began smelling a foul odor on the floor where she lived. First, they thought it was the garbage chute. The super was like, no, it was cleaned. And then for 3 days, the smell, it just got worse, a neighbor said. Concerned, building security guards went to her apartment to check on her after receiving information from an aunt concerned about the whereabouts of Deja. However, when the security guards reached the apartment to check on her, they were denied access by her quote-unquote boyfriend and another man. Seemingly concerned, the guards threatened to call the cops. Ultimately, the boyfriend and the other man left the apartment, and this allowed the security guards to return with the master key to open the door. Upon entering the unit, they discovered large amounts of blood, to which they immediately exited and contacted the police. Upon searching the apartment, the police officers made a horrifying discovery of what happened to Deja. In the bathroom, there was a meat cleaver and blood inside the bathtub. Officers also noted that there was a strong foul smell throughout the apartment. Next to the bathtub, there were two large suitcases. Upon opening the suitcases, the officers discovered Deja's dismembered remains inside. So just like that, the bright light of a young 22-year-old aspiring teacher was diminished at the hands of a monster. Authorities began searching for Deja's ex-boyfriend, Justin Williams, who was considered the prime suspect in the dismemberment and murder of Deja. But after finding him, he was only questioned about her murder, but is not currently facing murder charges. But Justin Williams is currently locked up under a slew of misdemeanors unrelated to the death of Deja Johnson. He does have a bail set at $250,000 bond, $125,000 cash, or $1.25 million partially secured bond at 10%. Now, Justin Williams isn't the only one wanted for this case. There are 6 other people in connection to this case who are currently being sought by authorities, but only are being listed as witnesses. They're believed to be present in the apartment after the time Deja was presumed murdered. Also wanted for questioning is Justin's new girlfriend, who was also the mother of his child, because she was allegedly using Deja's benefits card after her untimely death. So now, with everything we've covered, from the history of abuse to eyewitness accounts of beatings and threats, with security even being eyewitness to the ex-boyfriend being in the apartment that they eventually found the dismembered body in, no one, I repeat, no one has been charged or arrested for the death of Deja Johnson. We need justice for Deja Johnson. My prayers and thoughts go out to the family of Deja Johnson. And if you or anyone you know knows anything about this crime, it's time to speak up. Too many times have our daughters been murdered and slaughtered out here in the streets, and we're hiding behind this fake street code of don't snitch, or we're too scared to speak up against the evil going on in our communities. But someone needs to protect our children. Someone needs to help fuel the light for the future. Now, once again, my prayers go out to Deja's family. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Now, thank you for listening. And stay tuned right here to It's the News.